The views presented on today's episode are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force. Welcome, my name is Matt Wilson, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Talk series on the Firedog Podcast. The Table Talk series is a free-flowing conversation between friends and peers on topics like reading, leadership, successes, failures, fireground tactics, and much more. It's the kind of conversations that you'd have at the kitchen table at your firehouse. These are conversations we have all the time, and here at the Firedog Podcast, we thought it would be worth recording and sharing some of those conversations. In this episode, Chris and I explore the power of purpose, why it matters, how it shapes our daily actions, and its deep connection to mental well-being and long-term happiness. Drawing on the work of Viktor Frankl and our own experiences in the fire service, we discuss how purpose isn't just a feel-good concept. It's a driving force that fuels performance, resilience, personal growth. Whether it's in your personal life or on the fireground, having a clear purpose helps you show up as the best version of yourself, even on the hardest days. After you've listened, join us on the Firedog Mentorship Facebook group or visit any of our social media pages to continue the conversation.
Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. In his memoir, Man's Search for Meaning, he describes life in Nazi death camps and its lessons learned for survival through a sense of purpose. Between 1942 and 1945, Frankl labored in 4 different camps, including Auschwitz, while his parents, brother, and pregnant wife perished. Man's Search for Meaning was published in 1946 based on his own experience and the experiences of others he treated later in his neurology practice. This was a book that I read recently, and I wanted to share a paragraph that really stood out to me. Thus, it can be seen that mental health is based on a certain degree of tension between what one has already achieved and what one still ought to accomplish, or the gap between what one is and what one should become. Such a tension is inherent in the human being and therefore is indispensable to mental well-being. We should not then be hesitant about challenging a man with a potential meaning for him to fulfill. It is only thus that we evoke his will to meaning from its state of latency. I consider it to be a dangerous misconception of mental hygiene to assume that what man needs in the first place is equilibrium, or as it's called in biology, homeostasis, i.e. a tensionless state. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the struggling and striving for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. What he needs is not the discharge of tension at any cost, but the call of a potential meeting waiting to be fulfilled by him.
You know, as you read that excerpt, I think about the mental health quote-unquote crisis that I think exists today. You see, and there's of course a bunch of variables to this, and I don't want to attribute the lack of a purpose to people committing suicide, right? I don't want to put a blanket statement on it, but I would like to think that a contributing factor to, I guess, an increase in the use of mental health drugs, the uptick in suicide statistically can be attributed to this lack of purpose. This absence of something challenging or meaningful in someone's life, right? We have, for a lot of good reasons, developed our society and our well-being, and we live comfortable lifestyles, right? Like we have safe homes, we live in heated homes, air-conditioned homes, we have access to, here in the United States at least, have access to hospitals and grocery stores. We don't have to go onto the plains and kill our food, right? We don't have to go grow our plants and cultivate our crops, and like what we did through our upbringing as human beings, right, over the past hundreds of thousands of years, right? These traditional ways of living have gone away in a relatively short, we've only existed with them for a very, very small fraction of time in our overall existence, right? You're talking about 100 years ago, there was a large contingent of farmers and people cultivating their own crops. And now we live in a world where everything is, a click away, an Amazon purchase away, a trip to the grocery store away, which is great for a lot of reasons. And I am very grateful for those conveniences. But there is a consequence, an unseen consequence to that. And, there's no purpose for some people maybe anymore. And so you have to fill that void and find, we have to make a conscious effort as humans now to go fill that void and find out what our purpose is if we don't have a day-to-day struggle.
I love how Frankl states that. He says a striving and a struggling for a worthwhile goal. Because you're exactly right. Even I think back to my childhood. I'm sure yours was similar, where you had to listen to the radio for your favorite song to come on, right? Or you had to wait for 6:30 on Wednesday night for your favorite show to come on. And our life has gotten better and better and better, right? It was way better in the 90s than it was in the 1890s, to your point. But in the last couple decades, you can scroll your phone for a perfectly curated reel of content that is designed exactly for you. I think my wife wasn't feeling great last night, and there was one thing she wanted to eat, one thing that sounded good, and DoorDash had it to her in 20 minutes. Right, life is so good. Yeah, you probably don't have that luxury in Alaska, but
not quite. But I mean, I can fly a plane to Hawaii in less than a day.
Right.
It's just when you put things into perspective. But yeah, to your point, we've even seen an evolution in our upbringing of this, of these conveniences, and don't get me wrong, I'm taking advantage of them too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like most people have heard, find your why, or what's your why. Like why, there's certainly ways that we strive and struggle. I imagine most people can't articulate why they're doing what they're doing. Right? It might stop at, this is what I do, or this is how I do something. But to actually go through the thought exercise of why I'm doing the things in my life that I do every single day. What is that goal? What is that deeper purpose, that gets me up every single day, or that leads me to take this or that action?
Yeah, Simon Sinek, Start With Why? I believe that's the name of the book. But, the idea of finding your why, it's worth reading that one for those of you who haven't. But yeah, making a conscious effort to determine what that is for you. And Chris has shared through writing and some things that he shares with me that, to be a world-class firefighter, it may be, your purpose or your why is providing for your community. Like, I am doing what I do day to day for my family. I'm doing it for my community. And I think that most listeners, and myself included, that's our why. If you really, do that thought exercise and maybe you have to write it down or just meditate on it, think about it, but it's important to remind yourself of that, I think. And that's because it's just going to carry it. It's going to carry you through your day. It's going to contribute to what actions you take, right? Because if you don't think about that why, or you don't have a why, you're more likely to be sedentary and rely on those conveniences that we talked about, right? And not want to contribute anything to your community or things like that.
Something that's been incredibly valuable in my life was I started this 2 years ago, actually writing out a life purpose statement. And I say it every single morning. I get up, I do a little bit of stretching, and I go through this purpose statement. And it is such a powerful thing when it comes to being focused and just having a sense of a confidence and clarity in what you're doing. And I want to share that framework with our listeners,
Absolutely.
It starts with my purpose is. Whatever it is for you. Matt mentioned my purpose is to be a world-class firefighter. It might be my purpose is to be a supportive husband, a loyal son, an engaged father. Whatever your roles are in life, what is your purpose? Next is so that I. Why do you want those things? So that I can respond confidently and capably wherever I'm called. So that I can return home at the end of my shift and ensure the same for those around me. So that I can create abundance for my family. So that I could build a culture of this or that in my fire department or my workplace. Whatever it is for you. Why? What do you want out of those things? And then lastly, I will do this by. What are the specific action items that you're going to take every single day to achieve your life's purpose? I will do this by taking consistent action. I will do this by leading by example. We'll do this by delegating or prioritizing this or that.
Waking up early in the morning, potentially.
That's perfect. Right? There's things you want to accomplish, and that's maybe a goal you've set. I want to wake up at 4:30 every morning to work on whatever you want to work on. To put that in your life purpose statement and to say that every single day, it becomes how you start to see yourself. That's a kind of a thing that's rooted in psychology. It's really interesting to me how your conscious thoughts, saying your life purpose statement, impacts your subconscious mind.
And if you don't like to say it, you can also write it. As you say that, I think about Jordan Peterson. He's a popular, clinical psychologist, and he's kind of a politically polarizing figure now because of some of the things that he says. But I've read both of his books, well, two of his books, not all of his books. 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos is the first one, and then the second one is Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. But one thing he talks about, maybe a little bit in a couple of those books, is self-authoring. And he has, and there's a website that he has, and I think it's like selfauthoring.org or something similar to that. You could Google it. But anyways, he puts you through a similar exercise that you talked about, like not thinking through, but writing out essentially your purpose and what you're going to contribute to the world and to your community. So just a very, very powerful exercise, it seems.
Yeah.
And that's why people journal, right? And who's another good figure? Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday writes about similar stuff. He takes a lot of what the Roman Stoics have, like Marcus Aurelius and those that have written in their writings have been, have survived time, and he repurposes all of those writings, and a lot of the same thing, the same ideas apply. But anyways, he talks a lot about journaling and the importance of value of that. And as I say this, I don't do that stuff, and I think that I would probably be better if I did.
Yeah, to write, kind of a staple in meditation is affirmations, right? Whether it's something you say or something that you write, if you repeat, "I am a world-class firefighter," you'll start to see yourself in that light, and you will take actions that align with that identity, or whatever your purpose is, any of those things that we listed. And I want to share my personal life purpose statement, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
This thing is jam-packed with meaning for me. And when I think about striving and struggling for worthwhile goals in my life, this thing kind of condenses the things that I care about. And so when I say it every single morning, it gives me energy, it gives me power, and I hope it inspires listeners to at least get a first draft of their life purpose statement down. My purpose is to be a high-performing husband, father, firefighter, and leader, so that I can live this phase of life to the fullest and be a positive force in the lives of others. I will do this by balancing work with relationships and physical health, empowering those around me, building teams, and staying laser focused on my goals.
And so you say this every morning as a reminder to yourself to, I guess, to follow through with that purpose.
That's right. Every morning where I remind myself of what's important in my life. And I kind of put it in order, right? To be a high-performing husband. Man, it's so easy to go day to day without prioritizing, elements of the relationship I have with my wife. And to have that reminder every single morning of, this is a top priority to me. This is part of my life's purpose, to be a high-performing husband. Man, it's so valuable in just having clarity when I'm making decisions, right? Or when we're communicating or going through a tough time. Any of those things, the good things and the bad things that are going to happen in life, it gives such perfect clarity to why I'm doing what I'm doing and what my purpose is in life.
It sounds similar to me. So for those of you who may seem, it's a very touchy-feely approach, I'd say you're not wrong, but maybe it sounds better to you if it's sold as like an organizational mission statement or vision statement, right? Like the organizations that we're within, if you're in the Air Force, right? Fly, fight, win is our purpose, and everything that we do should be in that pursuit, right? Like, it's important to remember that purpose and aim are important if you're wanting to make meaningful contributions. And I think that most human beings want to make meaningful contributions, whether in their works or in their lives. So maybe if you paint it that way, like an organizational mission statement, it would resonate more with you. I think it's important for all of us to have, that our mission and vision, so that we have some kind of aim. And that's another thing Jordan Peterson talks about, having an aim. Because if you don't have an aim, then you're kind of aimlessly going about your business, going about life. And when you're aimlessly going about things without an aim, without a purpose, without a mission statement, that's when you have mental struggle. That's when you decide to be sedentary. That's when you decide to put fitness, mental health on the back burner. Like, nothing matters. I'm trying to think of the word, the word to that you use when you think that nothing matters and life is meaningless and we're just existing, right? But what is it? Apathy. Yeah, apathy is a good word. There's another word that I'm at a loss for finding. But the point is, it's so important to have aim. When you have aim and purpose, it's beneficial on so many more levels than I think we realize. You're just a better contributor at work. You're a better father, mother, husband, brother, whatever.
Yeah. And I like, some people will have a different purpose statement for, the different lines of effort in their life, right? Maybe one for family, maybe one for the firehouse. I think there's value in an overall purpose statement, but you can have multiple. And I encourage people to use that framework and get a first draft down. My purpose is so that and I will do this by. It doesn't have to be perfect. It'll evolve over time. But it's such a powerful thing in your life to have such clarity on what your goals are. Again, the striving and the struggling that Viktor Frankl talks about. I recommend that book for anybody that is interested in this kind of stuff, in psychology. It's certainly a heavy one. It spends a lot of time chronicling his time in the different death camps he was at, but to have a book published the year after, surviving such a crazy experience as a psychiatrist, it's such a unique read for anybody that's interested in it.
Absolutely, and just the excerpt that you read is, it seems to me, or at least for me, a knuckle dragger. I read, I'm like, wow, it's a tougher read, it seems. And they just spoke and wrote differently, I think, back then, or maybe he's just kind of on another level of intelligence. That's how Jordan Peterson's book is too. It's a bit challenging to read. And I feel like it's important to also bring into this conversation spirituality, or the idea of spirituality. And I'm not, saying, you need to be this religion, that religion, or religious at all. But one common thread I see with people who, attend church regularly, or practice a religion regularly, they seem to me, people that are, really devoted to that and consistent with it, seem to their purpose is just, it's so self-evident to them, right? And you kind of see through their action. You see it through their day-to-day action. Like, this person has just got a smile on their face, and they seem, maybe happier than the next person. And that's just my observation. There's no, scientific or it's not an official thing, right? It's just something that I've observed, and I think that that's a thread that ties into what you mentioned.
Yeah, that's another quote that stuck with me from the book, is that happiness ensues when you have clear purpose. Like that. You hear, what's in the Declaration of Independence, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And people will say, you got to do what makes you happy. And that's such short-term thinking in a way, because happiness ensues. Happiness is not the destination. It's what comes after you have a clear purpose, something that you're striving and struggling for. And I think that's very related to, kind of the mental health crisis that you alluded to at the beginning of this episode, that we're told over and over and over to go find happiness. And I don't know that it works like that.
No, I agree with you. I think the key word is pursuit. It's the pursuit of happiness. I think the pursuit is what gives you happiness and gives you meaning. We were just talking to Master Gunnery Sergeant Martinez on our previous episode 53, and we talked about doing hard things, and it's where you find your meaning in doing those hard things. It's where you find your purpose, and that's all in the pursuit of something, right? It's all the enduring of hardships and enduring the path that you're on. So yeah, I think that when there is a mental health crisis and people's answers are to go into a safe space, a calming place where you can hang out on a recliner, a couch, be in a comfortable place where there's no chances of hardships or struggles or whatever. I think it's important to do those things, but that's not the only answer. That can't be the only answer. And if you only do those things, if you only look for those comfortable places, you'll never find that happiness. And you'll always have that void that he talks about in his book.
Well, I love it. That's our challenge to our listeners. Get a first draft down. Framework for a life purpose statement. My purpose is so that I will do this by.
That's a challenge to me as well to do the same thing. Chris, I appreciate you bringing this topic forward so we could discuss it, man. It was a good episode.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fire Dog Podcast. You can find more episodes like this on our website, firedog.us, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also active on social media. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at the Fire Dog Podcast. That is the Fire DAWG Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow to stay updated on every new episode. We'd appreciate it if you shared this podcast with your friends and coworkers, whether on social media or right there in the firehouse. This is Matt Wilson with co-host Chris Boykley. We thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Talk series. Until next time, stay safe.